Welcome back to Let's Clone Frogger. This is part 2. I apologize for the delay. We've been out of internet, so I've been waiting for that to come back. As of recording this, we still don't have internet, so I'm going to be referring to my cheat sheet quite a lot today, and I'm going to try to edit through that. Sorry to waste your time. Let's go. We're going to be adding in our water for our death states. We're actually not throwing in the logs yet, but we'll be throwing in some code that we're going to need for when we get the logs. We're going to be updating the frog object, and we're going to be implementing a controller object to kind of work almost like a singleton, or just to, I don't know, it's how I like to code, so we're going to do that. Alright, so we're going to open up the project that we have. You should already have access to all of the assets that we need through the link, and if you downloaded this project in part 1, which you should have done. So let's do that. Okay, so the first thing that I want us to do is we're going to come through to create an object, and we're going to create a controller. Now, as I've said before, I like to keep a very consistent naming system, I guess, but this isn't actually going to be an object in the game. We're going to have to physically put it in the game so that it exists, but we're not going to be referring to it as an object. It's kind of its own overarching thing. There's no sprite tied to it, so I just call it a controller with a capital C. It's my way to do it. I'm going to plop a creation event in there. Initialize controller. And we're going to just give this 3 variables for now. The first one we need is frogs on logs. There's I think that actually should be frogs on pads, because we're not actually checking for them on logs. Frogs on pads. That's going to be equal to 0, because we're going to start off, we don't have anything there. We're going to have our lives in the game, which we're going to have equal to 3, and our score, which is initially 0. Don't forget them semicolons in case I want to upload this to the GameMaker form. And that's all we're going to need on the creation event. Right. Next, we're going to need a step event. So come down here, create a step, drag this boy over, and this is the one that is running at 30 frames just from the settings of the default for the room. I'm going to call this life, death, score, just because that's all we're really caring about here. The simple one is going to be our death state. So we'll only need 2. Death condition. If lives is less than or equal to 0, just in case it glitches out and for some reason we go down to -1, I don't want to miss that opportunity. We are going to show message. Now what show message does, I'm not using any splash screens, I'm not using any end screens for this. If, just like animations, if there's a request for it, then I might go ahead and add that episode at the end of this, but this is just going to give us pop-up saying the game's over, give us what our score is. A little button says OK. Hit OK, it's going to restart the game back at the beginning. Oops. I don't know what button even does that. So we're going to go here, give it a good old Dark Souls, you died, and in GameMaker, a hashtag or a pound is going to be the new line for within a string, and here we're going to type in our score. That's obviously not going to tell our score because it doesn't have access to a variable, so let's concatenate that string with typecasting a string of the score variable. Blammo. There we go. Now when you hit OK or enter by clicking OK or pressing enter, then it's just going to run the next line, which will be game restart. And that just does exactly that. Restarts the game, sets us back to the beginning. Next up is going to be checking for how many frogs are on the lily pads. Just like everything else in this, we can easily do it in multiple different ways. Let's see. That's death condition, win condition. Let's say if frogs on pads is greater than or equal to 5. The same check just in case something goes awry. Now we're going to, the win condition for the original Frogger, which this isn't a direct clone of the original, but we're going to keep this, is going to be score plus equals to 1,000 points for winning. From there, now there's, I couldn't find anything about this, about having a bonus for having extra lives left, so I'm going to keep those. I'm going to add 150 points for every life that we have. How the score kind of works in this game, which I think we're going to implement in this, is every time you move up 1 unit on the board, you gain 10 points. If you move down, you subtract 10 points. But if we have an extra life over, I want that to contribute to a positive score, because if you beat it in 1 life or you beat it in 3 lives, you should be rewarded for that. But since we have, I think, 13 spaces to the top, if you make it to the top, that's 120. Don't actually go into that last space onto the pad and then die. That 1 life just gave you 120 points. where, I don't know, if we just gave 100 points for having an extra life, it'd be more beneficial to kill off your 2 frogs. So instead, we're going to give ourselves 150 points for every frog that is left over. We can do that by score, whoops, plus equals, and we're going to, how did I do this before? In parentheses, lives minus 1, because you don't want to be rewarded for the frog that you're there. We want to be rewarded for how many extra frogs we have, multiplied by 150 points. Easy enough. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to end the game, and we're going to restart the game. So copy that up over here, but instead of you died, we're going to say you win. Score. Oh, did I forget? Bingo. And I forgot a bingo. Right, that's actually all that we have for the step event of our controller object. We're going to come down through a draw. I'm sorry, I want to change that over to a draw goopy. Dragging another line. We're just going to draw lives slash score. Where did I put these? All right. When working with text, if we were to run this as an HTML game, HTML5, it requires that you have an actual font, but if you're running just as a local executable, then it doesn't. So since we're not putting this online, I'm not going to add a font. You can create a font if you want, but we still need to set what our color and what our horizontal alignment will be, just for the sake of how I want this to line up. Actually, yeah, there's nothing that we can actually run the game to test right now, so we're going to add a little bit more code and finish this up. So I'm going to draw, set, color. Now you can do color, or I guess the more European couleur. I like using couleur because if you look down here, type in color, I see nothing on the bottom. Couleur. That's going to, that gets us, I guess, access to seeing what is needed, and it's a color. We get those by C_white. As I mentioned in the last episode, if you middle click on something, it gives you more information. It'll give you all the colors that are already there. So we're setting our color. We're going to draw, set H line, horizontal alignment. This is FA left. Same thing, middle click that if you want more options. And we're going to draw our lives counter first. Itchy eyeball. Where did we have it? Where did we have it? We had it at 10, room height minus 20. All right. So we're going to do a draw. Oops. Oh wow, draw 6. Draw text is going to be at our X, we're going to do 10. At our Y, we're going to do room height minus 20. And then we're going to draw lives. Same thing, we're going to need to concatenate a string. Oh, str, apologies. No, I was right, it's string. String, and then we're going to pass lives. So it's just going to say lives, colon, space, string. That. Now we're going to draw the score. So we actually want to draw, set, and we're going to change our horizontal align. Instead of being on the left, we're going to set it to the right, so we can make the space into the, I guess, reflect over to the opposite corner. So it's FA_right. And that is just, if we set it to the right, then all the text will be drawn to the left of that. If we set it to the left, text will be drawn to the right of that. If we set it to the center, text will be drawn centered to wherever our coordinates are. So draw set that. Draw text. This is going to be, I think it's room width, yes. So we're going to take the width of the room and subtract 10. We're going to still do room height, subtract 20, because we're going to be at the same vertical. And then we're going to reverse the order of this. So we're going to write the score, then we're going to do the colon. So it's going to be string score plus space colon score. Is that how I did it? That is how I did it. Fantastic. Cool. Now we can actually start this up just to see more of the drawing and just to check to make sure that we didn't like fuck up with any typos or spelling mistakes on the way. Let this load. And we've got, oh god damn it, I even said this part. Just like an object in the game, all objects have to actually be put into the room. So controller has to be put into the room. I always just put it into the top corner. It doesn't make a difference. You put it fucking out here if you want. Don't make no matter to me. It won't be used in the game, it won't be moved in the game. Well, it'll be used, it'll be referenced to, but now we have our lives drawn to 3, our score drawn to 0. We don't actually get any points yet for moving around, so don't worry about that. Words are in front. If we change the depth, which we will be changing the depth of the frog, but you can change it so you can walk in front of it, I don't think it matters. But we will be working with the, I just want to see what order of operations I want to do for things. Alright, we're going to be working with water now. So we're going to create a sprite for the water, put that in our environment. And this will be one that we also set to invisible, so it doesn't matter what it looks like, we just need a bounding box for it. So we're going to say sprite water. Just for ease of kind of snapping to the grid, I'm going to keep it at a 3232. You could literally just make it a pixel because we're going to stretch it. But I don't know. I want to do it this way, and I'm going to draw just a red X so we can see in the game, why aren't you, where it is. Also, drawing a red X makes it so our collision mask covers the whole image. Don't center it, keep it to the corner. And we have sprite for our water. Go down to environment. We have object water, and we're going to set the depth of this to what I have it at 3. And we're going to set the sprite to the water. I'm keeping it visible for now. Later on, we're going to come back and we're going to untick that visible count, or that visible variable. But come down here to our objects, our environment, our water. Now we're skipping the top row. The top row is going to be reserved for our lily pads, and we're going to put, I've got a couple options on how to do that. We might change it up. But it probably won't have a depth option. It'll probably just be like blocks of grass that you can't jump onto. But fill this whole space with our water, so touching anywhere in here will kill us. Right now, it won't kill us because we haven't put any code to it. We just drew that there. The frog's just going to walk right over it. It's not going to help us at all. But we do need to come down to our frog and actually change his depth, because what I forgot before, we need a depth of 1. This is so we want the frog to be underneath the cars, but on top of the logs. So 1 is just where I landed on for that. And since the water was 3, we're going to be, the water's below everything. So the water will be 3, the logs will be 2, the frog will be 1, because the smaller number is closer to, I guess, the closer to you, closer to the screen. And I think we're going to do in the create event. So we're going to add first to our create event, we need to add a couple things. Here we've set the image angle to 90. Where do I want to put this? We're going to be adding a couple booleans. I don't know. You can call it whatever you want. The naming is pretty like intuitive, so I don't think commenting and naming is going to really help. Be a bit redundant in my mind. We're going to do an is dead little false starting out. God damn it. And we're going to be doing I keep losing my spot. I'm sorry. On log, we're going to use this flag to check if the frog is on a log, so it doesn't die from the water. Because like when we're on top of a log, we're going to be obviously touching the collision box for the water. We don't want to die because you got to be able to float on logs, man. Frogs. Also false. And we're going to have a respawn timer. I'm going to set that to 60. Since we're running at 30 frames a second, 60 frames will be 2 seconds of being dead and respawning. So respawn timer on log is dead. Next up, come down to our step event. Now I changed a couple things up for this. I moved where we have this horizontal and vertical speed set to 0. If you recall, we're setting our horizontal and vertical speed by a key press, and then if nothing is pressed, we're setting it to 0. And I did mention that you could do it a few different ways. You can, you can by default just set them to 0 every frame, so they're only being added to if you've pressed a key, but that doesn't help with how we add our score, so I just copy that, or Control X to copy and delete. We're deleting that. We're going to instead put this, where did I put it? After the apply. So we're applying our motion, and then we're resetting the variables that we needed. If there was no motion, it was 0, it's just being set back to 0, doesn't make a difference. So we set that to after. Now we do need to add the score. So add score for successful moving. Alright. What I did for this is it's before motion apply. Good. if, because it's only on the vertical, because it doesn't give us any points for traveling left or right, that would just be kind of silly. Vertical speed does not equal 0, meaning that we are either moving up or down. A key has been pressed. Then I guess we're eligible to possibly get a score. If we're moving down, then we need to actually remove whatever that score was, which is only 10. So if it doesn't equal 0, then we're going to call our controller score. We're going to I did minus equals the sign of, I think, VSP times 10. Yeah. Sine of VSP times 10. Now, sine of VSP VSP does not equal 0, meaning it has to be 10 or negative 10. Positive 10 being down. Because that's how GameMaker, the grid is set up. 0 is at the top, room height is down at the bottom. So we're taking, if, say we're moving up, we have a negative VSP. So we're taking a negative 1 times 10. And we don't want to add negative points because we want to be rewarded for going up. That's why we've, instead of multiplying it by another negative, we're just subtracting from the score. So we're going to subtract a negative 10 if we're going up. We're going to add 10. And we're going to subtract a positive 10 if we're going down. We're going to subtract 10. And we're going to qualify for GameMaker's form. I think that's all we got to do in the frog, or at least in the step event of the frog. I could be correct. I am. And now is a pretty good time to test that just to make sure. We should be able to see our score respawn in real time. Or not respawn, we should see our score go up or down in real time. Bango, 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 bingo, bingo, bingo. Can't walk off the map because the border we did before, as I said, getting to the top is this 1300. And again, we're just walking on top of and through the water. It's not going to be able to kill us yet. Got that fucking rolling. Come down here, we're going to make a collision event. Collision event will run just like step event every frame. Excuse me, but it'll only run if there's an overlap between our bounding box and whatever object we're choosing. So we're going to choose the water, collision event, right here. Every time those two are overlapping, we're going to call this. We need to give it some code. Collision with water. And all right, so we need to check for a couple things. One, we need to check that we're not dead, because it would be ridiculous if we're dead to just keep calling the same type of collision. So we're not is dead, or is not dead. And I think I need a logical and do. And we got to check to make sure we're not on a log, because if we're on a log, we don't want to kill the frog. That rhymed terribly. Cool. All right. Now, I made a weird little note in my notes, I guess, to trigger, like, to flag when I want to test something. So we're going to do that here. So right away, since we're not dead, we're going to set it to dead. Since we're also not on a log, we're living and we're off a log, we should die. Is dead is equal to true. We're doing that only so we can actually call our alarm that we haven't made yet. There's more ways to do it than this. This is just the way that I've chosen to do it for now. We could get away with it without using is dead at all. So if we are not dead, and then we're going to set image blend equal to C blue. This is all that we're doing for our death animations. We're going to set our image blend to red when we're hit by a car and blue when we're drowning, just so we can get like a little bit of a notification. This is where you could flag for an animation to trigger of the frog drowning, maybe some bubbles coming up, whatever you want. And this is where I would be adding an animation if, I guess, again, there's enough of a request for it. But let's kill that frog and see what happens. Pressing play. Oh, damn, I should have added something in the controller that I would add. I'm going to do it later. So coming up, bam. We can move because I don't know. I don't remember why. Why can we move? Did I never check for if we're alive for the movement? Oh, we never had that variable. So yeah. I just never made a note, meaning reminding myself to go back and add it. But we're blue. Let's do two things really quick. One, come down to controller. This doesn't really help us too much in this game. This is just something that I really like to do. In my controller, or sometimes I'll have it called system, I like to add an extra script, script, sure, in the step event just for a debug. This way you can put any of your dev cheat codes that you need for the game that you don't want to accidentally have hidden throughout the game, and other players could exploit it. Put them all here, so then by the time you're ready to release or export, go through and either comment it all out or remove it. We're just going to give ourselves an if keyboard, check press, and going to do a VK escape. Now, if we hit the escape key, all we're going to do is game restart. This way, if at any point in our game testing, if the game bugs out, we can just hit escape, restart it, and we're good. Give ourselves plenty of time to test and play through. Now we're going to come up here. What I didn't do is, well, we're just going to do it here. In our movement input, we can only move if we're alive. So we just got to put all this inside of an if statement. It's as simple as that. So if we are not dead, which you could call this one is alive and then not have to negate it as often. Oh, I said dead alive, damn it. So if we're not dead, I didn't need to do it like that. Yeah, then come here. I'm going to tab all of these in. All right, so if we're not dead, then we're allowed to look for a keyboard input. Let's run the game one more time to test. Trying to make this one as quick as possible. All we have to do is create an alarm for the player, and then we are pretty much done with today's episode. So now we are in. As you can hear from my clicky ass keyboard, we can't move. But we just stayed dead because we haven't done the next step yet. But I can press escape, and we're back at the beginning, starting all over again. It's starting to almost turn out to be a little bit of a game. Now let's come through here. We're going to add an alarm 0, just because it's the first one. Make it alarm 6 if you want. Don't make it alarm 7 for no reason. And we're going to say respawn. Respawn that frog. So in our alarm 0, there's a few things that we have to do. One, this is we're going to tell our controller dot lives to minus. So we gotta. I don't need a space there. I don't not need a space there. I just don't want it there. So the controller is going to now know that we just lost a life. We're also going to set our image angle. What? Wow. Back to 90. Remember 90 being our vertical position. Just if we died facing to the right, we don't want the next frog to spawn facing to the right. Just where it's a little more uniform to always spawn in the same orientation. And we have to set our frog back to alive. Oops. Is dead is equal to false. So now our frog is in fact living. We're going to say image blend is equal to C white. White is just the default that just draws whatever the colors on the sprite itself are. We need to reset the X and Y coordinates, which in our frog create event we added a start X and start Y. So we're going to utilize those. X is equal to start X, and Y is equal to start Y. I don't think anything else is needed. No, that would be it. Now, one problem here. There's no problem in this. This piece is completely done. When we die, we run through this code, we respawn, we set ourselves back to white, and we change our angle to 90. But that never gets called. Like, we don't know when or how to use this alarm. That has to happen in our collision with the water, and it's why we've done this. So we don't want to keep, well, let me just type one first. We're going to go here, we're going to say alarm. Alarm is an array, so we're going to say alarm 0 is equal to respawn timer, which is 60 seconds. Now, if we didn't have this inside of a loop, we just had it in the water collision, when we collide, we're going to say alarm 0 is equal to 60. Every frame that ticks down by 1, when it gets to 0, it pops up our alarm code. But if we didn't have it again inside that if statement, every frame we would keep setting that alarm to 60. It would never go down any lower. Now, I mentioned there's a couple of different ways to do this. We can either do it the simple way right here, or there's an even easier way where we could check if alarm is, I think, greater than -1, then set it to 60, or if it's less than -1, I don't know. There's a way to do it with that. I usually do it that way, but since we're also checking for on a log, I figured we may as well just check for both conditions. I don't know why I rambled on that. We don't really need it. Let's test this game one last time. While it's loading, I'm going to look through, make sure I'm not forgetting anything else. Fuck, I think we got it. Alright, frog's moving along. Dead frog, we're going to give 1. We're going to give it 2. And bam, we're back in the beginning. We're now on 2 lives, and we've got a score of 8. Can't really get a higher score than 80 per frog because, well, there we go. Let's see what happens when we get that last frog dead. It dies, bam, you died, score of 240. Okay, restart the game. Only thing I would like to do before we sign out is come on in here and untick visible. Now, just to show you that that does only eliminate the sprite or the drawing of the sprite, and it doesn't actually get rid of the bounding box, I'll run the frog over the back. Bingo, bango, we still die. And that's gonna be it. Alright, that is literally all we have for this episode. Now we have collision with the water, we have a life counter, we have a score counter, and we're that much closer to having a proper game of Frogger done. We're really hoping, we just got off the phone, hopefully this game can go up by tomorrow or the next day. We're waiting 24 to 48 hours before they reactivate our internet, and then I can try and get part 3 and 4 out soon after that. I apologize so much for the wait in between. Hopefully it won't happen for the next couple. Thank you so much for following along. Share this video to anybody that you think wants to learn game development. And please feel free to comment any questions or concerns you have if your code isn't working. And also if you have any suggestions for other games that you would like to see cloned. And yeah, that'll be it. I'm signing out. Thank you.